Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm John Barry 555, and this is my review of the Cad Bane episodes of Star Wars Tales of the Underworld. The episodes in question are The Good Life, A Good Turn, and One Good Deed. So let's talk about each individually, then we'll talk about the three together as a whole. Timestamps will be down in the description. Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm John Barry 555, and this is my review of the 4th episode of Star Wars Tales of the Underworld, The Good Life. So this is the first of the 3 Cad Bane episodes, and this is in effect his origin story. I'm not sure what planet it is, but Cad Bane, or as he's called in this episode, Colby, and a friend, I'm presuming it's a friend, not a brother, they're living on the streets, scrounging for food, and then one day a mysterious fellow who just calls himself a businessman gives them basically one coin that's apparently worth a lot, so they live a nice, good life compared to what they normally did, basically indulging in candy, sweets, and good tasting food. And then the next day that guy shows up again and says, would you like to make some more? Just need to do this for me. And Cad Bane is roped into a life of crime from there. That's effectively what it boils down to. His friend though is captured by the police during all this while he continues escaping, and he's in that life of crime now. And this episode, I don't know how it's going to relate in comparison to the Ventress episodes, because I'm pretty sure Ventress and Cad Bane will be providing a follow from each other. But one thing I have to guess is Ventress' story is, especially in Tales of the Underworld, is about basically becoming a good person. Moving beyond her troubled past. While here, Cad Bane is falling into a troubled future. So that's where I'm thinking it might lead up going. But more than anything, I think this episode is supposed to introduce us to who Cad Bane was and how he got involved in crime and in bounty hunting and in the criminal underworld in the Star Wars galaxy. That's what I think this episode is all about, and that's what it does show us. But it also makes sure to introduce us a little bit of tragedy as well, to make us feel a little bit sympathetic for him. Losing probably his best friend in his first foray into the criminal underworld proper, not just living on the street and being a quote-unquote street rat. Very much, perhaps a comparison with Ezra Bridger. But Ezra met the right people who helped him find his place in the galaxy where he could actually help people. So that's something I just thought of as well. Plus, there's some Sutter's designs I think they took for the city from Chicago with an elevated public transit system of some form. I think that might have been slightly intentional as well. But we have to see where the story goes from here. Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm John Barry 555, and this is my review. Of the 5th episode of Star Wars Tales of the Underworld, A Good Turn. So this is the 2nd Cad Bane episode, and you can definitely tell he's in his life, but he's pretty good. He just wishes he was actually more involved. And basically his mentor, that businessman from earlier, and he definitely viewed that like a surrogate father figure, mentor type figure, it goes on a mission and ends up being shot by the Marshal. So Cad Bane wants his revenge, and he meets his old friend who's turned his life around, is now a deputy. Well, anyhow, Cad Bane causes an incident to get the Marshal to come out so that way he can get his revenge, and there's a standoff, a close standoff. Of course, Cad Bane's old friend shows up as well, and, well, shots are fired now. Cad Bane makes out fine, and so does his old friend, but the Marshal, yeah, not so lucky. But also another character that I haven't mentioned yet, Aaron, if I got the name correct, is shot in the shoulder, injured but still alive. Definitely seems like at this point in the timeline in the story that she and Cad Bane seem to be developing a close relationship. Of course, she doesn't want to lose Cad Bane, so she agrees to surrender and throws Cad Bane's blaster to the authorities so that way there's no additional violence. Of course, Cad Bane, he's not taking it super well. He's taking it well enough in the moment, but considering when his old friend asks him if his revenge was worth it, Cad Bane responds it will be, indicates that his revenge is not over. He may have gotten his initial satisfaction of revenge, but I think he has a new target for his revenge. Namely, namely the character Aaron, who I think he was going close to, but not anymore, because I think Cad Bane's story will be dominated, by seeking basically some wealth and all that, but also by seeking revenge. And that's what's going to be, I think, the heart of this story. And that's definitely where it seems to be leading at this time. He's seeking revenge, and he thinks it will be worth it, but he hasn't gotten it yet. And will he ever get it is a question. We're going to have to see that in episode 6. If I have to guess, I would say not. Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBay555, and this is my review of the 6th and final episode of Star Wars Tales of the Underworld, One Good Deed. So this is the final of the 3 Cad Bane episodes, and in this episode, well, he's out of prison and he's returning back to his home world, his home neighborhood, to get his revenge on his old friend for basically everything, and also hopefully reunite with Aaron, which implied that they were close, as I discussed before. Well, apparently has a lot of change. The neighborhood way improved. His old friend, now the marshal, is doing a pretty good job at keeping crime down. Unfortunately, there's some complications going on. Cad Bane wants his revenge. He doesn't care who he has to get in the way of. And that includes murdering his old friend in front of his old friend's son, which may actually be Cad Bane's own son. There's some implications going on there that I'm not quite sure if I read it correctly, but it's implied that, one, that there was something that Aaron hadn't told Cad Bane, but that Cad Bane's friend knows, and because he did eventually apparently marry Aaron as well. I'm wondering if Isaac, who's in the story portrayed as the son of Cad Bane's old friend, childhood friend, is actually biologically Cad Bane's. Though definitely Cad Bane's old friend is the father that stepped up. That's what I'm reading, mainly because there's just some subtext there, and Cad Bane's one good deed is not also killing Isaac and walking away. That's the one good deed in this episode. Now, they do not address at all, was Cad Bane satisfied by his revenge or not? That is never addressed. But what does show is that there is still capabilities of him perhaps having a little bit compassion, which is something I did not expect them to do. I expect to have about this episode. But it makes sense that there is still a part of Cad Bane that remembers when he was a child. That makes sense. That's still a part of him deep down. And seeing a young boy who perhaps reminds him a little bit of himself, who might be I don't know if Cad Bane ever picked up on that, but it does show that perhaps if he had the right mentor, he could have been a good person. He could have, like his old childhood friend, helped his own neighborhood. But instead, he went down the path of being in the criminal underworld and becoming a bounty hunter due to his influences versus the influence of his old friend that we never got to see. So now that we took a look at each episode individually, let's take a look at what they mean together. Obviously, we're following Cad Bane, and his story is basically seeing him from his introduction to the life of crime to his, well, not his end as we see that in the book of Boba Fett, but rather what appears to be him settling his old scores from childhood, for lack of a better term. So, as I mentioned in my reviews of each individual episode, he has his friend who, instead of going down the path of criminal bounty hunter like Cad Bane does, he goes down the path of lawman, and that puts them at odds of each other. The first episode is literally that introduction episode to both of them. The second episode, we see Cad Bane get himself into a situation where he loses Aaron, the person that seems like he was becoming romantically involved with, all because he wanted to seek revenge for the previous marshal before Cad Bane's childhood friend becomes the new marshal, killing what appears to be Cad Bane's mentor in the criminal underworld. He could have walked away from that, as Aaron rightfully was pointing out to Cad Bane, and that causes him to go to jail for some time and also lose Aaron, who appears in that intervening time to become romantically involved with Cad Bane's old friend. But Cad Bane's old friend's son, Isaac, might actually be Cad Bane's, as There's something that Aaron apparently wants to tell Cad that she never did. What could that be? It's an implication, it's very soap opera-y, but it would add a sense of tragedy. But it would make Cad Bane's one good deed in that episode being not to kill Isaac. Yes, he traumatized the boy, but he didn't kill him. But that does show that any compassion that Cad Bane had was pretty much wiped away. And probably the only reason why Cad Bane elected not to kill Isaac was because he decided that killing his old friend was worthwhile revenge, and that Isaac was maybe could be a victim of his revenge, but was not a party to any of the events that Cad Bane felt needed avenging. And that's why I think Cad Bane spared Isaac. Not because of anything else, but because Isaac wasn't involved. But that's just my idea. Overall, the story is about a character whose desire for revenge further pushes him down the path of criminality and into the underworld. Not because they are forced there by the ruling government, but because they decide, because of their own actions. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit more about when we talk about the Cad Bane episodes in relationship with the Asajj Ventress episodes. But that is going to be another video. In the meantime, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you always.